and welcome to the 5th Annual Vibrant Living Expo and Culinary Showcase. My name is Monica Landry, and it is my pleasure to introduce our next presenter. A classically trained chef, Vinnette carried a culinary arts degree from the Culinary Institute of America and is also a graduate of the Living Light Culinary Arts Institute, where she now teaches a variety of classes. Vinnette has two culinary passions: vegetarian cuisine and culinary education. A chef for over 25 years, she is currently executive chef of the Raw Food Underground and teaches culinary arts for the Palm Beach School District in Florida. Please give a warm welcome to Vinnette Thompson.
Thank you. Hi, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be working on peach cobbler. And all morning in the kitchen I've had my trusty assistant, actually for a couple weeks now, because he's been enrolled in all the classes here at Living Light. This is William Romano, like the cheese. And he's been in our classes, and he's been helping in the kitchen today and has got me up to speed here. So this is William, who's from New York. So thank you, William. I am so grateful. So today, you should have in your binder the peach cobbler recipe that we're going to be doing. However, since the peaches we got in over the last couple of days didn't ripen to perfection, I had to tweak it and play with it a little bit in batch. So your samples is different than the recipe you have here. However, my trusty assistant is going to give you the update. So here it is, and we will, since we're mainstream, I will read that out as we go so the people who are watching can see what the update is. It differs a little, but not that much, so you'll need to take notes and just keep a close eye on the recipe as I go. And it's fairly simple. It's peach cobbler. And usually if you get a really good peach, which it is stone fruit season, I don't understand why they're not up to snuff, but things happen. And so they weren't to my liking, so I changed the recipe just a little bit for the filling. The other part also that the recipe that's coming out now has caramel sauce, which isn't necessary, but it gives that little oomph that helps out. So because I am going to be serving your samples with that sauce, I thought you might like to have the recipe. So there you go. So under fruit filling is where I've made a little bit of adjustments. The rest of the recipe stays the same. It remains the same. The ice cream is the same, and nothing else has changed. So you got a bonus of a little recipe for the sauce, and then the filling, when I get to that, just switch over to that page and follow along. All right, so hope you guys aren't too tired from all this expo and from eating all the desserts downstairs. So first we're going to work on our ice cream. So if you would switch to that, it's just the basic French vanilla bean that we do here at school. And we're going to start first by soaking 2 cups of almonds overnight, and this is what it should look like. And you can soak them overnight or anywhere between 6 to 8 hours. I'm going to need the Vitamix if you want to hook it up. So first we drain the almonds and give them a little rinse. And in making almond cream, or any kind of cream that we make, it's usually 1-to-1. So that means 1 cup of nuts soaked and 1 cup of water. So here we have 2, and you just get them nice and drained, and you put them in the blender. And we're making a cream, which is different from almond milk. Almond milk, the recipe is usually 1 cup of almonds to 3 cups of water. But like I said, we're doing it 1-on-1. And I'm sure you guys have made almond milk before, right? If you're raw foodists and you've been there. So just hang with me for a little bit, because the beginners who aren't used to this needs a quick demo. I need a plunger. Okay, so you'll get a really thick, what looks like, just almond pulp. And you should be able to see from the monitor. And I'm going to strain it through the milk bag, which is in the bowl right there. And I need the bowl. If you could get me another one of these, another blender, that would be good. Okay, so these are trusty milk bags. If you're not familiar with these, I think we have them downstairs. And they work great for making sauces and soups if you want to make something that's nice and smooth, and instead of using a strainer. This, or on Elena Love's website, or downstairs in the marketplace, we should have them. And you just get it through, and it's like milking a cow. You just kind of work it through. And if you notice, this is a lot thicker than your regular. So we want cream. So it's nice and thick. All right? I will take your questions at the end, so if you want to just hold them for a little bit, and we'll take Q&A at the end. So this is just making a nice, wonderful cream. And then the pulp that's left in here, you can do lots of wonderful things with it, like make cookies or cakes or whatever. But this is money, so don't throw it away. You could put it in the freezer if you're saving up enough to make a nice cake or something. Just get it nice and dry, and then you put it in a Ziploc bag or a container, and you freeze it. So here's the pulp, and here's the liquid of what you want, which is nice and thick. All right? So I'm going to set that off to the side. William will take it for me. Just get my hands clean here. All right, so some's already made for us, because to make ice cream, you don't have to, but it's nice to get it cooled down after you've made it. So it's already made for us. This today is, you can make any nut milk. Today, this one I'm using is actually a cashew cream that was made earlier, but it's nice and cool. And so the ingredients for your ice cream, which we'll jump from where it says 2 cups of almonds to 2 cups of water, because we just did that. And we're going to add all the other ingredients, which is 1 cup of a cup and a half of cashews that has already been soaked for 4 hours. You just add that to your blender. And then you're going to add your agave nectar, which this has all been measured out. Thank you, William. And your vanilla extract. I'm going to add the psyllium at the end, because it sometimes get a little, if you've worked with psyllium before, it gets a little gummy. And just a little bit of pinch of salt. So I will blend this. And I need the plunger again, which is right in there. Just rinse it. Thank you. Thanks. This will get a little loud. A little bit here. Might not need it. It's fairly thick. This is not coming out. I get it going on high because I want a smooth texture. So I do a little high. because you can see the pieces on the side. So I get it a little smooth, and because I don't want the vanilla beans to be overworked, I would like it to be a little bit, you know, specks, because this is a vanilla sauce. I leave it whole and just put it in, and then I add the psyllium. So that's the order in which I do the ingredients, if you want to take notes. And then I go back and I reblend it. I try to get it smooth as I can. Okay, so that's your ice cream base, and as you can see, you can't see from there, it's a little on the smooth side. So here you have, I need a dish, I'll pour it in. Just pour it in a glass dish. I think you could see better from up here. You have this base, it's called, you know, just an ice cream base now that you can use for anything, and it has the flex. If you don't want to make it vanilla, you could leave the vanilla bean out and add whatever you want to it, you know, a little bit of chocolate powder, and you'd have chocolate ice cream or whatever fresh fruit you have, just to change the flavor. And you put this in the freezer, leave it, you know, a good 12 hours, and when it comes out, you just scoop it, and then you have ice cream, which you will get to sample later. All right, so let's work on our peaches. All right. So there's all kinds of peaches out there. There are these little guys, they're called Saturn peaches or donut peaches. They're out right now. If you get a really good one, it's flavorful. Sometimes you could get one and it's not so flavorful. Then make it into cobbler, okay? The regular ones regular peaches are good. This happens to be a nectarine because we're done with all the peaches. So I'll just show you how to get through to a stone fruit. So like an avocado, and you know this has a little indentation for you, just cut it through, okay, and just twist it like you would an avocado for it to release the pit, like that. This one is actually quite pretty. And you just make small dices. The ones we're doing today, because we want, you know, for time's sake. You could leave them in slices also, but we're doing just a small dice today. And where's my 2 cups that was already prepared in the Cambrio? It's already made. And the same for just these guys, which the white flesh. The white peaches are really actually good. Again, you go to your local green markets. They usually have a variety of white peaches, and it's really good. You got to get a good one. All right. So just today we're going to do dices instead, and we want to work on our filling. We're going to do our filling next. So yeah, it's good. I'll take that square bowl, the bowl. All right. So you have your peaches diced already, and we're going to put them here so you can admire them. And what I would do, they are beautiful. They're really nice. I'll let you finish that. And where's my baby? Right here. All right, so all right, so the filling we're going to do, now switch to the other page that you have right here, and we're going to go under filling. And you're going to use just a little bit of maple syrup, and we're going to use the blender to make this because we want to get all the spices emulsified here. So you're just going to put them in. a little bit. And pumpkin pie spice is something you find in your spice aisle, and it's just all the wonderful already combined for you things that you use for pumpkin pie. So there's cloves and there's ginger and there's cinnamon in it, and instead of adding all those ingredients, just buy one, and it's great for apple pie. I think there's an apple pie one too, which they vary the ingredient in that, and use that instead. But because peach cobbler usually has more cinnamon in it, we're going to add a little bit more cinnamon. So just put it in, and you're going to just make a little syrup for your peaches, because those are, you know, really nice. Just a pinch of salt is going to go into that, and we're just going to blend it slightly. I need the smaller top for, is this the smaller one? All right, so we'll just blend it a little. And I need the spatula again. All right, so that's all you're going to do, right? Just to get it mixed in. Thanks. And you just pour it on here. And this is going to give you a nice low base. What you're going to do is set this into your dehydrator, you know, at 105. You could let it go for like 4 to 6 hours, and all it's going to do is just get better. So it will set up, because all the juices, it will let go of some of the juices, but it will still keep its tact. It won't be mushy like a cooked cobbler sometimes can be. And you just want to get the juices going, stir it a little bit. And right now, like I say, the peaches, it's stone fruit season. By that I mean all the cherries are in season, and peaches and nectarines and plums. Anything with a hard pit in it is a stone fruit. And you could make a cobbler with any fruit. But peach is the one that I think that is closest to Americans' heart, I think, because it's, you know, Georgia has a lot of peaches or whatever, and it's a real southern dish. So to translate this one into raw is, you know, it takes a little bit to get it worked in, because everybody has a peach cobbler recipe from their mama or their grandmother, and it's like stepping out on a limb, because it's like, is it like my mama's? So at the Raw Food Underground, we have a meatloaf that we do, which is a nut loaf, and we call it Not Your Mama's Nut Loaf, meat nut, because everybody compares it. So that will now go into dehydrator, and it will sit up and set up. Yours has been in there for a while. So while that's doing that, we'll work on the crumble, which is the topping. And this also gets better if it goes in the dehydrator and sets up for you. So we're going to switch gears and use the food processor. And get it in there. All right, so we'll switch back to your other page of where it says your crumble topping. And we're employing 3 kinds of nuts today. Why? Because each one will impart a different kind of oil and a different texture. And we just like to, you know, instead of making it boring, it just gives you a little bit more oomph in the recipe. You could use any one nut if you choose, or any 2, or any combination of whatever you like. Okay, these have been soaked and dehydrated, and we all know how to do that, right? Okay, good. So we'll break the nuts down with, I usually put the salt in when I'm doing this because it's a granule thing and it kind of breaks down. Salt is the great equalizer in the kitchen. It just balances out whatever it is that you're doing, and it gives it balance. People say, well, it's just too much salt. But, you know, it's that thing where if it's missing, people know it. And if it's there, nobody knows that it's missing, and nobody wants to put any salt on. So it's just, you know. Okay. All right, the booklets you could get are sold downstairs in the marketplace or at the registration. So the nuts that I'm using are almonds, Brazil nuts, and walnuts. Okay? And we're adding salt, and that's where we're stopping for right now, and then we're going to process them. I could read you the recipe if you wish in its entirety in a little. Okay, so we're going to grind this. And I tilt this to get it going a little quicker because here's the thing with nuts. If you overwork them, then all the oils come out and then you have a sticky mess. So be careful not to overwork your nuts. You just want to break them down before you start adding the dates, which is the next ingredient. And right in your recipe where it says 2 tablespoons water, I want you to cross that out and add vanilla. We're going to use 2 tablespoons vanilla. Vanilla is just going to bump it up and give you a little bit more flavor instead of water. And we're also going to add a little cinnamon to this also, which I don't have. The cinnamon should just be like a half a teaspoon of cinnamon, which will be good. So first you want to break the nuts down, and then you slowly add in the dates. Now, it depends on the type of dates you have. Medjool are usually pretty good, and for this we've been, every time we scale it out or we get it measured it, we get to about 5. However, that's not always going to be true because you know what it is. So usually the recipe will say 5 to 8 or a quarter cup. You just have to play with it. What the trick is to watch how it comes together in the bowl. If it starts sticking together, you know you need to stop. And you don't need any more dates because this much will give you enough sweetness, but you want it to just hold a little bit. And you drop them in one at a time as the machine is going. And I'm sure you could see a little bit from there. Nope, there's big pieces in it still. Again, you just want to break them down. You can see it's coming together a little bit. And I will now add the vanilla last, and then that will help it stick a little more. And just slowly add it. Can I get another bowl? Okay. So here you go. You see, like you can see now how it's all come together in the food processor. You can even watch from the outside. So what you want, you're making like a crumble, which is a little different from a pie crust when we make the pie crust. Even though the ingredients are same, the method is slightly a little different. And there's just, a little bit of nuance to it. So what we do is you could put it in a glass dish that will fit in your dehydrator, or you could spread it out on a Teflon sheet, and that will handle it really well in the dehydrator. So you just, yeah. Can you get me like half a cup of pinch bowl, and I'll send this around and people could feel it, like that size right there. Okay, so this is pretty much what your crumble should look like. It's not real wet, and I'm going to pass around a bowl so you could, you don't have to eat this because everybody's going to touch it. You just want to feel and experience what it should feel like. It's not oily, which is hard. Nuts are really hard to work with if you don't do it the right way, because then it will, all the oil will come out. This one I'm going to send around. You can taste it if you want. I don't recommend it since everybody's going to feel it with their fingers, and you can feel that it's not overworked or it's not wet. And so this will also go into the dehydrator and get nice and warm, and it will stick together to give you the crumble that you're looking for. You could leave it in 4 to 6 hours, you know, at 118 degrees, and it will get nice and crumbly for you. So for the caramel sauce, which I'm not going to demo for you because it's fairly simple, the only thing in there is one ingredient you might not be familiar with, which I will explain to you. And again, it has cashew cream, which we just made, except instead of using almonds, you would put in cashews instead. And your cashews can be soaked anywhere from 4 to 8 hours because it's a softer nut, and you just want to soften them up to help give you the cream. So they require less time soaking. All right, so the other thing is yucca syrup, which is way better from you. It's from a root, and this acts like molasses. So if you were doing a recipe that calls for molasses, if you're translating from cooked to raw, and it had molasses, you would use yucca syrup, which I think we have some down in the marketplace. And it's thick and caramelly, so of course we want to employ this in the caramel sauce that we use. For those of you who were at the party last night and the ice cream bar that had the caramel sauce, this was what we employed to make that nice caramel sauce. This is raw. It is a root. And yeah, and this is way better for you as far as the sugar goes. It doesn't, make your blood sugar do up and down, and it's supposed to be even better than agave. Yes? The question is, can you use maple syrup? Maple syrup is not as thick as this. If you see, it's coating the side of the bottle, so it's acting like a molasses. Maple syrup, this has a viscosity on it that maple syrup doesn't have, and the flavor is different. This is also quite strong, and it gives, it packs a punch, especially that Americans are not used to, because this is like, I'm not sure what country it comes from, or the root is grown. So it's a little bit different. So use it judiciously, and just, in this whole recipe, we're only putting in 1 tablespoon, and that will give you what you need. So this is not the one we want. But anyways, any questions? I'll take questions now on any of the parts. Yes? Okay, the question is, how long can you dehydrate the topping for the cobbler? Oh, the peaches part, I would go anywhere between 4 and 6 hours because you want it to be warmed through, right? Because peach cobbler is usually warm and nice, and that's why it's one of the comfort foods that there is. I want the other caramel sauce that she's using for plate up. And it's just as long as it's warmed through, and don't cover it. So put it in one of those glass plates like you saw, and just put it in your dehydrator, and don't cover it because you don't want to sweat it. So just leave it open, and the sauce will thicken and make like a really nice sauce on the bottom. Yes? No. When we're using nuts that are soaked in desserts, usually it will say, like on the cobbler, the topping part of it, it will say right here, 1/2 cup of almonds, soaked and dehydrated. It would always, in all our recipe books and here at school, and in any recipe book, the proper way it's written. Now, if that was written 1/2 cup of soaked almonds, it would be 1/2 cup after you have soaked them, okay? No dehydrating. It will definitely and specifically tell you if it needs to be dehydrated, okay? Any other questions that I may take? Yes? Okay, soaking dehydrated nuts, there's smaller nuts usually go for 6 to 8 hours or overnights. And all you do is you soak them, pour off the soaking water, put them on a dehydrator tray, and put them back in the dehydrator and let them dry at 105 degrees for whatever it's going to take. Now for a bigger nut, like a Brazil nut, that will take days, where an almond usually takes, again, it depends on where you live. In Florida, nothing dries that quickly because of the humidity. So 12 hours tops is what, depending on the size of the nut. Yes?
I soak cashews, but they're cashew pieces. Why am I soaking them? Because they're not actually going to sprout because they've already been broken apart.
Okay. The cashews, you're not really wanting them to sprout. You're soaking them to soften them up to make a sauce or a soup or something that gives you creaminess. So you're not really sprouting them. You're just soaking them to soften them up, especially like for the ice cream. They work better if they're from a soft, wet state. Yes? The nuts usually will double, like times and a half double. So if it calls for a cup of soaked nuts, I would only soak like a half a cup. And then it will probably get you to where you want to go. Here's the other trick. You can soak your nuts and then put them in a bag and put them in the freezer. So when you're ready for a recipe, it's already soaked for you. And you could just pull them out and let them thaw for less time than if you read a recipe and you think, oh, it says I need to soak those nuts for 8 hours, but I'm hungry now. I want to eat now. You have some already soaked in the freezer. You just pull them out. Not in the fridge because they will start to sprout on you, and sometimes you'll forget them there in the back of the fridge. It becomes a science experiment. Nobody wants to eat it, so pop them into the freezer and then take them out at that time. Yes? Okay, again, I will repeat this. If the recipe is written like it is in this cobbler, it says half a cup of almonds, comma, soaked and dehydrated. Okay, you'd have to soak them and then pop them in the dehydrator. If it says half a cup of almonds soaked, then you would have had to soak them already and then measure them. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, saw a couple more hands go up. Yes?
I just wanted to mention for the upcoming back here that there are plenty of charts out there available for how much it takes to get in the states that she's talking about.
Right.
Regarding what they are, what are. A lot of recipes we don't have.
Yes?
This is just a follow-up on the woman who asked about the cashew pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're soaking to soften, is that not releasing the enzyme inhibitor?
It does also release enzyme inhibitors, but usually the enzyme inhibitors are on nuts that have like a dark coating on them, like a walnut, where cashews have, they're already without that. And macadamia nuts also have no real enzyme inhibitors, but like anything that has a brown, like, the almonds and your walnuts and your Brazil nuts, then you want to release them. Yes? The Brazil nuts, you don't really have to soak them because they're like a hard nut that really doesn't have too many enzyme inhibitors. Plus, it's so hard to dry that nut back out that you want to use it from a dry state. Yes. Any other questions? Yes, if you're making Brazil nut milk, then you want to soak them again because you want to soften them up so they will blend up for you in the blender. Okay? We have lots of classes here that helps you out and lots of books in the bookstore that tells you and gives you a little bit more info on, the raw food world. I mean, there's so much to learn, and every day we're discovering more things. And I call Living Light the think tank because it's just where all these great minds come together, including your own, people who take classes here, and they come up with these great recipes. And so it's an ongoing process. We're evolving constantly in the raw food world. So right now, if there are no more questions, I will, yes? After you drain them, yes, you could put them back. If you're going to use them in the wet state, if you are going to need them in the dry state, then you dehydrate your nuts. The question was, after you soak nuts, can you use them? You don't have to dry them. It depends on what the application is and what you're going to use them for. Okay? Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, we're going to quickly plate this for you. And you're going to put a little bit of your with the magic of television, it's now been 4 hours. And so your peach cobbler, this person's going to be really lucky, whoever gets this portion, because it's nice and big. So we're just going to get your ice cream. And you're going to take your crumble. Ooh, this is nice. You guys are in for a treat with this one. And you just crumble it on. A lot if you like a lot of it. Ah, yeah, this one's happening. And then let me get a little sauce on that. Bring it back. See, so there's a lot of liquid in the bottom. Don't skimp on it. And you just want to, make sure that there's enough, because that's the juices from all the peaches. All right, and this is just to add a little pizzazz and a little wowie to it. Doesn't need it. You do have the recipe, however, because we are serving it with that today. And it's just a caramel sauce, and we just add it over the ice cream. And this is also a little warm. Okay? And there you go. Peach cobbler. All right. Your samples will be coming out. Please have your tickets ready for a sample, because we have a limited number. And it will be out shortly. Yes.